7 harsh truths I wish I knew in my 20s. There's a season in our lives when we think we have time. We chase moments, people, and goals, thinking clarity will come later. But what if I told you some of the most painful lessons show up quietly, and by the time we learn them, it's already too late to rewind? In your 20s, life whispers truth, but most of us are too loud inside to hear it. Today, I'm not here to give you sugar-coated advice. I'm here to share the truths I wish someone had told me, so you can rise sooner than I did. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life. There's a strange sadness that comes with growth, one that no one really warns you about. It's the quiet ache of realizing that some of the people you loved, laughed with, cried with, won't be part of your journey forever. In your 20s, it feels like everyone you meet could be a forever person. Friends you swear you'll grow old with. Relationships you think will turn into marriage. Even mentors or colleagues you believe will walk beside you for years. But here's the truth. Not everyone is meant to stay. And that's not a tragedy. That's life's design. Some people come into your life to teach you a lesson. Some walk in to give you a memory. Others show up to test your boundaries. And very few, very rare few, will be your lifelong companions. We often hold on to people out of habit, not connection. Out of fear, not alignment. And we confuse longevity with loyalty. But a long friendship that drains your spirit is not loyalty. It's emotional debt. A relationship that lingers because you're afraid of starting over is not love. It's attachment. I used to think losing people was failure. That if a friendship ended, I must have done something wrong. But growth isn't about keeping everyone close. It's about learning who fits your future, not just your past. Some people were never meant to understand the version of you you're becoming. And that's okay. You don't have to explain your evolution to everyone. There's wisdom in quiet exits, in letting go without drama. Not everyone deserves a goodbye letter or a final conversation. Some people leave through silence, and that silence is a gift. It creates space for new energy, deeper connections, and higher standards. And often, that space is where you meet yourself. It's tempting to chase closure, to go back and fix what broke. But closure doesn't always come from others. It comes from accepting that the season has changed. Just like trees let go of their leaves, you're allowed to release people who no longer bring you peace, alignment, or growth. And don't get it wrong, letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you've chosen to care about your future more. It means you understand that peace is more valuable than presence. That you can love someone from afar without needing them close. It means you finally realize your energy is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it. The biggest lie we tell ourselves is that we owe people permanence. That because someone was once good to us, we must keep them forever. But people change, you change. And growth sometimes looks like solitude. Sometimes the people you lose are the people that were holding you back from your next level. Not because they were bad, but because they were only meant to be a chapter, not the whole story. So if you're holding on to someone who's already drifted away, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, ask yourself, Are you nurturing connection or feeding an illusion? Are you investing in history or protecting your destiny? You don't need to carry the weight of every person you've ever loved. Some souls were meant to pass through, not stay. And that doesn't make their presence less meaningful. It makes their purpose complete. Hard work doesn't guarantee success. We grow up being told that if you just work hard, you'll make it. Study harder, hustle longer, sacrifice sleep. Say yes to every opportunity, and you'll eventually be rewarded. It's a comforting belief. It gives us control, structure, a reason to keep going. But then life happens. You watch someone who barely tries soar past you. You see a friend who works twice as hard, still stuck. And you begin to question everything. The truth is, hard work doesn't guarantee success. It increases your chances. Yes. It shapes your character, builds resilience, strengthens your discipline. But it's not a promise, because the world isn't always fair, and effort doesn't always equal outcome. There are people out there working 14-hour shifts, 7 days a week, just to survive, not to thrive. And there are others who stumble into success, gifted with timing, luck, or connections. The difference isn't always effort. Sometimes it's privilege. Sometimes it's positioning. Sometimes it's just life unfolding in ways we can't predict or control. And when we cling too tightly to the belief that hard work is everything, we start to tie our self-worth to our productivity. We feel guilty when we rest. We feel ashamed when we don't win. We question our value because our results didn't meet our effort. But that's a dangerous path, because it means failure feels like personal deficiency, not just a moment of misalignment. In your 20s, it's easy to burn yourself out believing that the grind will pay off. You skip birthdays, cancel plans, lose sleep, and call it ambition. And yes, some of that is necessary, but here's what no one tells you: strategy matters more than stamina. Working smart is not laziness, it's wisdom. Knowing where to place your energy is more valuable than draining yourself everywhere. Success isn't just about effort, it's about alignment. Are you working on the right thing? Are you in the right place? Are you connected with the right people? Are you being consistent and strategic? Because pouring yourself into the wrong lane, no matter how hard you go, won't take you where you're meant to be. And let's talk about timing. Sometimes you're doing all the right things, but the season hasn't arrived yet. Nature doesn't rush, and yet everything blooms. Trust that delay isn't denial. Trust that rest is not regression. Trust that effort is never wasted. Even if the results don't come right away, hard work is noble, it builds character, but it must be paired with vision, with intuition, with the courage to pivot when necessary. You're not weak for changing direction. You're not lazy for pausing to reflect. You're not behind because someone else got there faster. You're on your own timeline. And success, it's not just about how hard you push. It's about how deeply you understand the game you're playing. So work hard, but don't make hard work your identity. Don't sacrifice your well-being at the altar of ambition. Don't believe that more sweat always equals more success. And most importantly, don't let the lack of results today convince you that you're not worthy of them tomorrow. effort is meaningful. But it is not everything. And once you release the lie that hard work guarantees success, you free yourself to work smarter, life fuller, and rise in ways that align with who you truly are. Love alone isn't enough. We grow up watching movies that teach us love is the ultimate answer. That if you love someone enough, everything else will fall into place. That love can overcome all obstacles, heal all wounds, and conquer all challenges. But then real life teaches you a different lesson. That love alone isn't enough. You can love someone deeply and still be completely wrong for each other. You can care fiercely, passionately, with every fiber of your being, and still fail to build a healthy, lasting relationship. Because relationships require more than emotion. They require communication, alignment, maturity, and most of all, effort on both sides. In your 20s, love can feel intoxicating. It pulls you in, it makes you believe, it gives you hope. But sometimes, the very thing that feels so right emotionally can be completely misaligned practically. You may want the same feelings, but not the same future. You may share dreams, but not the discipline to make them work. And when you believe that love is enough, you keep fighting for a connection that's no longer feeding either of you. Sometimes we stay in relationships not because they're working, but because we think leaving means we never truly loved. That's not true. You can love someone and still need to walk away. You can love someone and still grow apart. Because love, in its purest form, doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes it means letting go with grace. Love should never cost you your peace. It should never silence your truth or dim your light. If loving someone means constantly losing parts of yourself, then that love isn't love. It's sacrifice masquerading as devotion. Real love supports your growth, not your stagnation. And on the flip side, being loved by someone doesn't automatically mean they're right for you either. There are people who will love you, but not know how to support you. People who will love you, but won't grow with you. People who love you in ways that feel like control or fear or obsession. That's not the love that builds. It's the love that binds. You see, a strong relationship requires shared values, emotional safety, mutual respect, and consistent effort. Love is the foundation, but it's not the whole house. Without communication, it crumbles. Without trust, it shakes. Without alignment, it becomes chaotic. The third, one of the hardest lessons you'll ever learn is this: you can't build a future on feelings alone. And you shouldn't have to convince someone to meet you where you are. Love should feel like freedom, not tension. Like coming home, not walking on eggshells. It's okay to look back on a relationship and say, I love them, and that wasn't enough. It doesn't make your love less real. It just makes you more aware. Because as you mature, you realize love isn't just a feeling. It's a responsibility. It's showing up. It's listening. It's growing. And most importantly, it's choosing. Again and again, not out of fear or habit, but out of mutual desire and shared purpose. So if you're clinging to someone or something with love as your only reason, ask yourself, is love helping us grow or just helping us hold on? Because the most beautiful love stories aren't built on intensity alone. They're built on intention, truth, and alignment. And when love is real, it doesn't just feel right. It works right. You'll outgrow people, and that's okay, in your 20s and the third. It often feels like the people in your life will always be there. Friends from school, your early co-workers, even certain mentors or family members you lean on for advice. You think these connections will last forever. After all, you've been through so much together. But as time goes on, you start to notice something shifting. The conversations change or stop happening altogether. The energy feels off. What once felt comfortable now feels limiting. The third, and you're faced with a difficult but necessary truth. You're outgrowing them. The third, outgrowing people doesn't mean you're better than them. It doesn't make you selfish or disloyal. It simply means you're evolving. You're beginning to prioritize different things. Maybe you're more focused on growth, healing, purpose, or peace. And that doesn't always align with where others are. It's uncomfortable because no one talks about the loneliness that often comes with leveling up. But growth, by nature, separates. Some people are only meant to be with you for a season. They come in to your life to teach you something, to help you through a moment, or to reflect who you were at a certain point in time. But seasons change, and so do people. Holding onto connections that no longer fit can keep you stuck in an old version of yourself. And the longer you stay in those outdated relationships, out of guilt or habit, the more you compromise your evolution. You may start noticing that you have less to say around certain people, that your energy feels drained after spending time with them, that you're pretending just to keep the peace. And this is your soul's way of telling you, it's time to move. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with clarity and love. Because clinging to connections that no longer serve you only slows down your growth. One of the hardest parts of this process is realizing that some of the people you thought you would cheer you on won't. As you grow, you'll make others uncomfortable. Not because you've done something wrong, but because your evolution reminds them of where they're stuck. And sometimes, people would rather pull you back down than rise with you. That's when you need to be strong enough to protect your peace, even if it means walking alone for a while. But here's the beauty when you release what no longer fits. You make space for what truly aligns. You'll begin to attract relationships based on depth, not convenience. On purpose, not just past. You'll find people who match your energy, who challenge your thinking, who respect your boundaries, who want to see you win, not just because it benefits them, but because they genuinely care. You also learn not to take it personally when others outgrow you. Everyone's on their own journey. You're not for everyone. And that's okay. Being left behind or drifting apart doesn't mean you're unworthy. It means someone else is finding their path just as you're finding yours. Letting go doesn't always mean cutting off. Sometimes it just means loosening your grip, creating space, loving people from afar, blessing them without needing them to walk every step of your journey with you. In your 20s, this truth can feel heartbreaking. But with time, you'll realize it's liberating. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to change your mind, your priorities, your inner circle. You are allowed to protect your energy, even if it disappoints someone else. Because the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And if a connection forces you to betray that relationship, it's not a connection worth holding on to. You'll outgrow people. And that's not just okay, it's necessary. Nobody is thinking about you as much as you think. In your 20s, it's easy to believe the world is constantly watching you. That every move you make is being evaluated, judged, or talked about. You hesitate before speaking in a group. Worry about how your outfit looks. Second guess that post you were about to share. Or avoid taking risks because what will they think? But here's the liberating truth. Nobody is thinking about you as much as you think they are. Everyone is too consumed with their own worries, insecurities, and lives to be focused on yours. The spotlight effect. The belief that people are paying more attention to us than they actually are is a trick of the ego. We imagine ourselves under a magnifying glass, but in reality, we're just passing thoughts in other people's busy minds. Once you understand this, you unlock a kind of freedom that's rare. You start to realize that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to over-explain. You don't have to delay your dreams out of fear of judgment. Most of the time, and the third, people aren't judging you. They're too busy worrying about whether you're judging them. This doesn't mean people don't notice you at all. It means they're noticing you through the lens of their own experience. Third, their opinions say more about them than they do about you. And that's exactly why you can't build your self-worth on public perception, because public perception shifts and your worth shouldn't. Think about Itio. How many times have you replayed a conversation in your head, worrying you said the wrong thing? Now ask yourself, how many times have you obsessed over someone else's awkward moment the same way? Rarely, if ever. That's because most people are thinking about themselves, not you. In your 20s, the fear of judgment can be paralyzing. It stops you from launching the podcast, starting the business, wearing what makes you feel confident, or even speaking your truth. You water yourself down to fit into an imagined version of what others find acceptable. But here's what's worsening. You miss out on becoming the real you. When you realize that people aren't watching you as closely as you feared, you give yourself permission to experiment, to fail, to grow publicly. You stop performing and start living. You try things without needing approval. You make bold moves. You live your life according to what fulfills you, not what impresses them. And ironically, that's when people start noticing. And the third, not because you're trying to get their attention, but because authenticity is magnetic. When you stop hiding behind fear and start moving with confidence, you become a person others want to follow. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. This truth also helps you develop compassion. You stop assuming people's reactions are about you. You realize that sometimes when someone is rude, cold, or distant, it's not about your value, it's about their pain. And in that realization, you grow thicker skin. You stop shrinking to accommodate assumptions. One of the best things you can do for your mental freedom is release the need to be liked by everyone. Not everyone will get you. Not everyone will support you. But that's not your burden to carry. Your job isn't to be understood by everyone. It's to be aligned with yourself. So next time you hesitate to speak, to act, to try, remind yourself they're not thinking about me as much as I think they are. And even if they are, does their opinion define who I am? No. Because the real power comes when you stop living for approval and start living from authenticity. Live boldly. Speak freely. Show up fully. The world isn't watching as closely as you think, so give them something real to see when they do. Healing is your responsibility, not theirs. When someone hurts us, it's natural to want closure, to wait for an apology. The third, to believe that healing begins the moment someone else takes responsibility for the pain they caused. But one of the hardest truths you'll ever have to learn, especially in your 20s, is this: healing is your responsibility, not theirs. It's not fair. You didn't deserve the betrayal, the trauma, the abandonment, or the heartbreak. And yet, here you are, left to pick up the pieces. And the person who hurt you, they may never say sorry. They may never understand what they did. They may even move on like nothing happened. That's where the pain deepens, because it feels like injustice. But waiting for them to make it right keeps you stuck in the story of your suffering. Your freedom depends on something outside of your control. That's the real trap. When you accept that healing is your responsibility, you take your power back. You stop giving the person who hurt you permission to decide when or if you get to feel peace again. You stop needing closure from someone who's not capable of giving it. You stop making your healing dependent on their awareness. Healing doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means acknowledging the word without letting it define your identity. It means choosing to love yourself enough to do the inner work, even if they never witness it. It's journaling, crying, going to therapy, setting boundaries, learning to trust again. For you, not for them. It's recognizing that while you didn't choose the pain, you get to choose what happens next. In your 20s, you'll carry emotional wounds you didn't cause. You'll wrestle with resentment, with questions like, why me? And how could they? And in those moments, it's easy to believe you're broken. But you're not broken. You're breaking open, revealing parts of yourself that need attention, love, and care. Blaming others feels easier in the short term. It lets you hold on to your anger, and in some ways, that anger protects you. But long term, blame becomes a cage. You keep reliving what happened, rehearsing the hurt, replaying conversations in your mind, and you remain emotionally tethered to the very person who wounded you. Healing cuts the cord. It says, you don't get to live rent-free in my mind anymore. You might think, but if I let go, they win. No, you win. Because healing is not about excusing them. It's about freeing you. You deserve joy that isn't filtered through the lens of pain. You deserve love that isn't shaped by past betrayal. You deserve peace that isn't conditional on someone else's behavior. And the truth is, some people don't have the emotional maturity to see how they hurt you. Waiting for them to reach that level only delays your growth. You can grieve what happened and still grow from it. You can release someone and still learn from the experience. You can carry the lesson without carrying the wound. In your healing, you also begin to develop self-compassion. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start realizing, what happened to me wasn't my fault, but what I do with it is my responsibility. You become the caretaker of your soul, the guardian of your own heart. Healing is messy. It doesn't follow a timeline. Some days you'll feel strong. Other days you'll collapse under the weight of old emotions. That's okay. Progress isn't linear, but commitment is. Commit to your healing again and again. Not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve freedom. You may never get the apology, but you don't need it to begin. Your healing journey isn't about rewriting the past. It's about reclaiming your future. As we step back and reflect on these harsh truths, we begin to see a pattern, a deeper message running through them all. Life in your 20s isn't about having it all figured out. It's about unlearning what was never meant for you. It's about choosing truth over comfort, growth over acceptance, solitude over shallow validation. The world often tells you to rise quickly, shine loudly, and never show your pain. But real strength is quiet. Real transformation happens in stillness, in discomfort, in the choices you make when no one's watching. These truths, that life isn't fair, that not everyone will stay, that healing is yours to own, they're difficult. But they're also your freedom. Because once you stop expecting the world to hand you happiness and start cultivating it from within, that's when everything changes. When you accept that discomfort is a teacher, not a punishment, that rejection is redirection, that your energy is a currency, not to be spent carelessly, you begin to live on your own terms. You no longer fear outgrowing people. You don't shrink yourself to fit into rooms you've already outgrown. The third, you understand that being misunderstood isn't a threat. It's a sign you're walking your own path. And you finally see that peace is more valuable than attention, and healing is more powerful than revenge. In the end, your 20s aren't meant to be perfect. They're meant to shape you. Every misstep, every heartbreak, every silent battle, it's all forging a stronger, wiser, and more aligned version of you. So I end by saying that tagged, you can't be what you can't see. So if no one is modeling the kind of peace, power, and purpose you crave, become it. Because someone, someday, the third, will need your truth. And your courage to live it might just set them free.